Welcome to Alien Mythos X.
July 1st, 1965. A French lavender farmer named Maurice Masse was working his field when he heard a strange whistling sound. He looked up. What he saw would change his life forever and leave behind evidence that scientists still can't explain. Maurice was 41 years old, a quiet man, a farmer, the kind of guy who kept to himself and worked the land his family had owned for generations. That morning, he was checking his lavender plants near the village of Valensole in southern France. The sun was barely up, the air was cool, everything was normal. Until it wasn't. He heard at first a whistling noise, sharp, metallic, coming from behind a small hill on his property. Maurice thought maybe it was a military helicopter. They flew over sometimes. But when he walked closer to investigate, what he saw stopped him cold. Sitting in his lavender field was an object. Not a helicopter. Not a plane. An egg-shaped craft about the size of a small car, metallic, sitting on four thin legs, no windows, no doors, just smooth and silent. And standing next to it were two beings. Small, maybe 3.5 feet tall, dressed in tight gray-green suits. Large heads, no hair, faces that looked almost human but not quite. They were examining one of his lavender plants. Maurice froze. He couldn't move, couldn't speak. His brain was trying to process what his eyes were seeing. One of the beings turned and looked directly at him. It raised something in its hand, a small tube pointed it at Maurice. And suddenly, Maurice couldn't move at all. He was paralyzed, completely frozen. He could see, he could breathe, but his body wouldn't respond. He stood there, helpless, watching as the two beings calmly walked back to their craft. They didn't run, they didn't panic. They just moved slowly, deliberately, like they had all the time in the world. The craft lifted off the ground without a sound. No engine roar, no exhaust, just a soft humming. And then it was gone. Maurice stood there for another 15 minutes before he could move again. When the paralysis finally wore off, he stumbled back to his house and called the police. The local gendarmes came out to investigate. And what they found shocked them. At the exact spot where the craft had been sitting, the ground was different. The soil was compacted, hard as concrete. The lavender plants in a perfect circle around the landing site were dead, completely withered. But here's the thing. They didn't just die that day. They never grew back. Scientists from the French Space Agency came to investigate. They took soil samples, ran tests, measured radiation levels. The soil in that circle had been exposed to intense heat, far beyond what any normal equipment could produce. And the moisture content in the ground had dropped to almost zero, like something had sucked all the water out of the earth. To this day, more than 50 years later, nothing grows in that spot. You can still see the circle in Maurice's field, a permanent scar left behind by whatever landed there in 1965. Maurice Masse was interviewed by police, scientists, and investigators for years after the incident. He never changed his story, not once. He described the beings, the craft, the paralysis, the exact same way every single time. Psychologists tested him. They found no signs of delusion or mental illness. Police found no evidence of a hoax. Maurice had no reason to lie. He wasn't looking for fame. He didn't write a book. He didn't go on talk shows. He just wanted to go back to farming. But he couldn't. Because every time he walked past that dead circle in his field, he was reminded of what he saw. The Valensole UFO Landing is one of the most well-documented cases in history. Physical evidence, witness testimony, official investigations, and a piece of land that still refuses to grow anything. Some people say it was a military experiment. Others say it was a hallucination. But Maurice Masse knew what he saw. And the ground remembers.